why some members of Mark Fisher's family walked out of the courtroom during Ed Taylor's testimony.
Plus, it's a typical windy day in Wyoming. I'll tell you why what many call a nuisance could actually be propelling us to a major political force. That story more coming up. News 13 at 6 starts right now.
This is News 13 at 6 with Kristen Mosteller and Walter Allen.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Day 4 of Edward Taylor's murder trial wrapped up this afternoon,
with lead defense attorney Kerry Johnson resting the defense's case. News 13's John has been following the trial from its infancy and now joins us. John, what were the emotions like when Ed Taylor took the stand?
Walter, emotions ran high during Day 4 of Edward Taylor's murder trial this afternoon when lead defense attorney Johnson called Ed Taylor and hushed over the crowd because they were all very curious of what Taylor would have to say about the night that he shot and killed Mark Fisher. While Taylor was being cross-examined by Johnson, he seemed to be very calm and collected. Taylor testified that he was a loving husband when he and his estranged wife Beth Taylor were together in both of their 2 marriages. Taylor portrayed himself as a family man who did everything to provide Beth and at one point in the testimony, Taylor became visibly choked up. But the most interesting part of the testimony came when Taylor counted the night of April 1st when he killed John Fisher. Members of Fisher's family became visibly upset, and a few of them left the courtroom. Taylor began describing how he blew the lock off before he eventually shot Fisher. Things became heated when attorney Mike Blonigan and Taylor talked about his extreme animosity towards Mark Fisher. When Blonigan brought up the ammo that Taylor was using, he looked at Taylor and said, quote, "That buck is good for killing people, isn't it?" When Taylor said he didn't remember, Mark Fisher's family simply sat there and shook their head. At the courthouse, News 13. Back to studio.
News 13's John Romero, thank you. Closing arguments will begin tomorrow, and News 13 will be there with continuing coverage of the Edward Taylor murder trial. Suspects in a robbery spree that spanned 3 states will be extradited to Montana. A Nebraska prosecutor will drop charges against 4 of the 5 men. All 5 are suspects in a series of armed robberies in Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. They were arrested in Chadron on October 11th. The Nebraska prosecutor says charges in Nebraska are relatively minor compared to those the men will likely face in other states.
Casper police were led on a high-speed pursuit late last night. Police say 21-year-old Adam Tucker was arrested after he led officials on a chase through the streets of Casper. He is charged under a suspended license, eluding, reckless driving, aggravated assault on a police officer, and having no insurance. Police say at one point in the chase, Tucker tried to slam into an officer's patrol car. The chase ended at 12th and Oak in Casper, and according to records, the man had 7 warrants for his arrest soon. Tucker went on at least 2 of those warrants. And Casper College campus security and Casper police are on the lookout for at least 2 men accused of vandalizing nearly 9 vehicles this morning. Police say the men shattered the vehicle windows with a 2x4 in the parking lot of McIntyre Hall. They say a 16-year-old girl and a freshman at the college were in one of the vehicles at the time of the incident. And according to campus security, the suspects could face felony charges if they are caught.
This is one of those things that's just so ridiculous to deal with. I mean, this is what makes college not seem worth it.
People go out and do bad things. Hopefully we can identify the folks that did this and make them take responsibility for it.
And officials say there is more than $4,000 of damage as it turns out the suspects are the students at the college, and if they are, they will face charges on campus as well as criminal charges.
Wyoming's leaders say it's time the government take action for help produce clean, affordable energy. Just yesterday, Senator Barrasso addressed the committee on climate change and asked for them to consider giving Wyoming incentives to help continued energy development. News 13's Joy York has been following the energy issue and is now live outside. Joy, why is Wyoming so pivotal in energy development?
Well, Walter, it's obvious what makes Wyoming such an important role in this. It's what so many Wyomingites complain about. Now, Wyoming may be one of the best sources for wind in the nation. Our leaders are trying to get the country to take notice. It's not just wind. Wyoming produces 1/3 of our nation's coal, and half the nation's is generated from coal. With a major push to develop cleaner and more efficient ways to produce energy, Wyoming is asking for federal funding.
They use a lot of coal in China, a lot of coal in India, and I think it would be better if they used clean coal technology that we have and continue to improve on in the United States. And right here in Wyoming, with us being kind of the lead place in the country for coal, what better place to use the money and the research right here.
The amount of energy that Wyoming produces and exports is actually the equivalent of every other residential home in the United States. Walter?
Joy, we spoke a little about incentives earlier. What is the senator asking for?
Well, Walter, that's a good question, actually. He's joining forces with the governor and asking for some tax exemptions or tax incentives, actually, to go along with clean coal technology and some dollars for gasification. Back to you.
Joy York live outside. Thank you. Joy will have more energy development tonight on News 13 at 10. Senator Barrasso was hard at work again today introducing new legislation that will protect the Wyoming Range. Senator Barrasso introduced the Wyoming Range Legacy Act of 2007, which will protect more than 1.2 million acres for sportsmen and visitors. This new legislation will prevent future oil and gas leasing. The senator said in his address that energy development is important for the state, but for the memory of a man who fought for the range.
As we, as a state, as the governor and I come together cooperatively to join in the memory of our dear friend Craig Thomas, to keep and enhance the tourism, the recreation, the hunting, and the sportsman economy of the Wyoming Range.
It will also allow a buyout process for current leaseholders who can sell their leases.
Well, there will soon be more lights brightening up the highway to the Wind River Casino. WYDOT is installing traffic lights at a dangerous intersection between highways 389 and 137. The intersection has seen increased traffic over the past few years and a few car accidents as well. As a result, WYDOT is working to make this stretch of highway safer for drivers.
Well, at certain times of the day, especially noon and 5 o'clock, it's hard to get across. It just takes forever. You can sit in line for 10 minutes.
And the traffic lights should be up and running by November 6th.
With fires continuing to burn in many parts of California, it is important to keep your valuables safe, especially important documents like birth certificates and special pictures and memories that cannot be replaced. A fire can happen at any moment, and by putting your valuables in a safe, you will ensure those items are kept secure even in the most devastating fire situations.
Safes today, if you do purchase a fire safe, you can get a basic fire safe for $50 to $75, and they are fire rated, which means they will protect your documents for a set amount of time. Now, the more you spend on a safe, the more amount of time that the safe will actually keep those documents safe in a fire environment.
You can buy a fireproof safe to keep your valuables in at any hardware store or major discount stores.
Well, Cheyenne cats need a safe home, and there are a lot of them looking for one. The Cheyenne Animal Shelter has more than 65 cats over its capacity right now. The shelter is offering a deal this weekend, and it's a good deal for anyone looking for a new companion. The cats come with shots, and they're all spayed and neutered.
A great way to compete with the free to good home ads and people who just find strays. So we're giving them away just as long as you make sure to put some kind of ID on them or a microchip.
The cost for the microchip or the ID tag is just $10. You can head on down to the shelter and pick up a cat anytime. Coming up next on News 13 at 6, we'll take you to an area where art is truly turning heads. Stay with us as News 13 at 6 continues.
Pretty nice day to be outside hanging around. If you're playing in the pumpkin patch or if you're just enjoying a nice beautiful day across Wyoming, you're actually going to be enjoying a different weekend weather outlook. I'll have all the details coming up in just a few minutes.